Hello, I'm Dan West, the Livonia Chamber of Commerce. It's our latest edition of CityScape, our podcast featuring people, place, and ideas that impact Livonia. When you look at all the response to COVID 19 this year, one message has been consistent. We should protect our older and health vulnerable family and friends. Today, we are into the fourth month of many of these people being homebound. Today, we welcome Lance Slatton, a senior case manager at Enriched Life Home Care Services on Farmington Road in Livonia. Lance, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us, Dan. Good morning.
Among Lance's credentials includes he facilitates several family caregiver support groups in Metro Detroit. Lance, what can we do safely with our older and vulnerable family, friends, and neighbors who are staying home to break up the monotony of being home these days?
There's several things we can do, Dan. One of the things we can do is we can engage them with different activities around the home, help them connect with family members via Zoom if they have a computer or a smartphone, or in our case, a lot of the staff help engage them with various communications with family members, their grandkids, using their own phones, because a lot of our seniors don't have a smartphone or they're not quite sure how to use it if they do have it. And then we try to keep them active by doing various physical activities, whether it's chair aerobics or walking around their home, or even walking around their property or on sidewalks, and then playing games and things just to try to help keep their mood and spirits up.
Um, some people want to travel to visit their parents and grandparents who are out of town, but have decided against making the trip the last 4 months. Can we visit them now? And if so, how do we do that safely?
You can. Now, whether you should or not is usually dependent on the family and their loved one that they're going to go visit. And we recommend, if you're going to visit, make sure you're going to them. You don't want them to come to you. And if you're going to go, it's recommended by car and not by airplane, just because of the exposure on airplanes right now. And making sure that the family going for the visit is one or both of the spouses. Are they essential workers? Are they working in a field where they may, like a grocery store or a hospital setting, where they may be coming into contact with multitudes of people on a daily basis? And we recommend getting the PCR test. It's the nasopharyngeal COVID test, just to ensure that you don't possibly have the infection and maybe you're asymptomatic and you're not aware of it. And when you do get there for the visit, if you decide to go, try to have your visit outdoors. That's minimizing the chances of exposure rather than being indoors or enclosed in a room type setting. And it may sound silly, but don't share utensils if you're going to share a meal. Everybody should have their own personal utensils and their own dishes that they're using, and don't share, because again, you're trying to minimize that risk and make good decisions. If you feel like you've been sick, or you feel like you may have been exposed, or maybe you're coming from a higher exposed area than where you're going to visit, make sound decisions. I've heard it recommended that you even maybe wait 10 to 14 days when you do plan or decide to take that trip, just to make sure that you're kind of self quarantining
Mhm.
yourself prior to going and possibly exposing a vulnerable senior.
What can we effectively do to support those contained in their homes with an upbeat or a positive message?
Check on them, call them. I know one community, they had went for a lady that our company helps. Every week on Friday, they would take her a little care package, leave it on her door with a little note, waving through the window. We've all probably seen the birthday card parades for our kids who had a birthday and couldn't have their birthday party. Doing stuff, letting them know they're not forgotten, letting them know that they're there. Phone calls, letters, postcards. I know one family would send their parent care package by Amazon every few days, just little somethings, whether it's a new picture of the kids put in a nice frame, or even a digital message, keeping them engaged, keeping them active. And isolation is one of the worst things for our seniors, with or without COVID. And studies have shown for people over the age of 60, isolation is one of the greatest predecessors to death. And there's a lot to be said about that isolation. So just trying to stay engaged as safely, but as much as possible.
Is there anything in your industry that's new in your philosophy and thinking and supporting people today that you did not know in March?
not so much not known, but our practices have shifted a little bit. I like to say, in a way, it's a good thing that we're in the field that we're in because we already had all the PPEs, the face masks, sanitizers, and gloves and things like that. So we weren't scrambling trying to find them. And what we have changed though is from April to here in July is we're not taking our seniors out places. And a lot of the doctor's offices did their calls or visits by Zoom and things like that. But our staff would take them to the movies or take them to lunch or take them to a concert or any number of things, and that was fine. But even if they were still open and you could do it, which most of them weren't anyhow, we wouldn't take them out. And explaining it to them or to their families, it was for their protection because of the exposure, and the risk to exposure is too great to take any chances. Most of them totally understood and were totally fine with that. But we took it one step further for the protection of our seniors and children that we help, is if they needed a prescription and they didn't already have them delivered to their home, our staff wouldn't go and get the prescription. We then put that on case managers to go pick up the prescription, bring it to the home, and we wouldn't even, excuse me, we wouldn't even enter the home for quite some time, just to minimize our exposure or someone else's exposure, because we're going into the stores. So we've been exposed potentially. So then we're kind of defeating the purpose. If we're going to take that prescription or groceries and walk it inside the house, we would leave it on the front porch or at a designated area for them so that they're still getting what they need, but they're not taking the risk of going out with the staff to get it.
All right, Lance, great information. I thank you very much for taking some time to talk to us today.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
We appreciate everyone for watching this episode of Cityscape. We'll see everybody next time.